1968 marked the 10th running of the Great American Race. A record crowd of more than 90,000 fans gathered in perfect weather to see what was expected to be the fastest Daytona 500 to date. Cale Yarborough had won the pole with a qualifying speed of 189.222 miles per hour. Still, even Cale was concerned about the increase in speed.
This is the first time since we've been running at Daytona, or running anywhere actually, that I have felt the G-force as bad as it is. Seems like when you run over 185 miles an hour is when it really starts working on you. And when you go into the turns, I can feel the force, the G-force, stretching the skin on my face, and it feels like my arms weigh 100 pounds each and your head about 200 pounds. So this is definitely going to be a factor in the race that a man's going to really have to be in good physical condition, because this G-force is really going to work on you in the race.
Rain canceled the qualifying races, and without the opportunity to test race at higher speeds, everyone was tense.
Well, the speeds have been the big problem here. The supporting races were rained out, and the drivers are not sure what's going to happen. Will their tires last? Will they be able to stand it emotionally? And whether or not they can draft. Yarborough's qualifying speed of 189.222 is an over 8-mile-an-hour jump over the qualifying speed set last year. And back in 1959, it was a paltry 143.198 that won the pole, a remarkable jump with its problems.
As they lined up, familiar names were in the lead pack.
Here's the field. On the inside is Cale Yarborough, number 21 in the 68 Mercury Cyclone. Number 43 is Richard Petty on the outside of row 2 in the 68 Plymouth Roadrunner. Then on the inside of row 2, it's Leroy Yarborough, number 26 in the 68 Mercury. Outside of row 2 is number 17, David Pearson. 16 is Tiny Lund there. He's in the 68 Mercury. In the inside of row 3, and Bobby Ellison, number 29, is next to him in the 68 Ford. And here they come, and Yarborough slides right down from his inside pole spot to take that lead around the first one. Richard Petty, however, drops back as Leroy moves right into number 2 spot, and Petty has dropped back into the slot at 3, and David Pearson's giving him quite a challenge for the number 3 position.
After the first lap, Cale Yarborough was in the lead, with Leroy Yarborough right behind him. This was a hint of things to come, as was this comment by ABC's Bill Fleming.
You see lots of bits of paper caused by the tremendous amount of wind currents and eddies, and that can be a hazard as the race wears on, because a lot of that paper gets into the radiators and causes the cars to overheat.
Cale Yarborough led for the first 12 laps, but lost it after making 2 unscheduled pit stops between laps 13 and 16 because of a faulty ignition.
Richard Petty, car number 43, followed by David Pearson in car number 17. Petty, it seems, was the man to beat, and he had that mysterious black roof on his car that has caused so much speculation.
But Petty's lead wouldn't last long, and neither would his new roof. When James Hilton blew a tire, the ensuing caution sent Petty to the pits. Problems with the roof brought Petty out of his car to make the repairs himself.
Apparently a piece of debris from Hilton's car struck the roof just above the windshield and pulled it away from the windshield, and they're trying to fix it now.
With Petty in the pits, the race had a new leader. Leroy Yarborough passed Buddy Baker to take the top spot.
So we've had 5 different leaders now in the race, with Buddy Baker in car number 3 dropping back into second place. And keep your eye on Mario Andretti, who's been making quite a charge from his original starting spot of number 20. He is dueling with Pearson for the number 3 spot right now.
Problems with Petty's roof continued to plague him, keeping him out of contention.
Richard Petty's had his problems and has had to wire the roof down. He's made another pit stop to smooth out the opening with tape, and he's back in the action now.
When Buddy Baker hit the pits for a green flag pit stop, the leaders were again shuffled.
And now Mario Andretti is challenging for the lead. Mario in car number 11 has moved up from the 20th spot, and moving up is a good case in point when you consider that Cale Yarborough, after a couple of early pit stops due to ignition problems, dropped back to 17th place at the end of 100 miles, and now is back up into 3rd. And now there goes Mario into the lead from Leroy, and Leroy is slowing down. He's going to make a pit stop.
As Leroy Yarborough pulled in for a scheduled pit stop, Cale Yarborough advanced to 2nd and eventually took the lead from Andretti.
Cale Yarborough has moved into the lead, which has been a remarkable recovery for him after a couple of early pit stops. Mario Andretti is 2nd, and Leroy Yarborough is 3rd.
Then on lap 105, Mario Andretti hit the wall.
That's Buddy Baker's car, car number 3, Johnny Sears, and Mario Andretti in car number 11 is also in trouble. Mario on the left-hand side of the picture, that's Johnny Sears in 4, and that little incident just wiped out two of the big contenders.
Buddy Baker and Mario Andretti were out of the race. Somehow, Cale Yarborough managed to avoid the trouble right behind him. More surprisingly, Leroy Yarborough also got through unscathed, and the two continued to lead the race.
Cale Yarborough leading the back in a Mercury. Leroy Yarborough is second. Paul Goldsmith in a Plymouth Roadrunner is third. Bobby Allison in a Torino is fourth. Jim Hurtubise is fifth. And Al Unser in a Dodge is sixth.
On lap 143, Cale Yarborough's car started slowing down. He fell to fourth place, and with his engine overheating, headed for the pits. Again, Bill Fleming raised the issue.
Any particular reason for the overheat problem? Was it any paper in there that's blown up in the radiator or what?
Bill, they've cut a hole in the radiator to get at some of that debris that we saw in the very first lap, paper napkins and litter and so forth, and that might be it.
On lap 166, Bobby Allison took the lead as Leroy Yarborough made a scheduled pit stop for gas. Meanwhile, Cale Yarborough was back on the track and making up places quickly. 2 laps later, Leroy mistakenly came back into the pits.
Leroy came in right after being serviced, and they're looking around. They can't seem to find anything wrong. They gave him a little bit of gas and sent him out. This is a costly stop for Leroy. He lost a lot of ground here.
The leader, Bobby Allison, peeled off into the pits, making Cale Yarborough the leader until a blown engine caused another caution, and Cale headed for the pits. When the race restarted, Cale was in fourth, but he quickly moved up, and by lap 183, he was second.
And the pit stops have juggled the leaders to this extent. Leroy Yarborough has taken the lead. Cale Yarborough is in second place, and Bobby Allison is in third place. And now we're watching the interval timing. The clock shows Leroy's lead of 4.2 seconds over Cale Yarborough and Allison.
Cale steadily chipped away at Leroy's lead as the two Mercuries battled it out.
Cale Yarborough has picked up 2.2 seconds in this last lap over Leroy. And so this may be a very hairy finish in this race. 1 second separating Leroy Yarborough from Cale Yarborough, and what a race this is turning out to be. A 500-mile race, and they're only 1 second apart. A great race that you're seeing right here between two of the best drivers in the world, Leroy Yarborough and Cale Yarborough. Here's another try by Cale. And he's got him. Oh, he loses it. He had him just for an instant until they went into the turn, and you saw him have to back off because of traffic in his lane.
Then on lap 196, Cale made his move again in turn 3.
And now, Cale Yarborough using the drafting technique at these critically high speeds where the G-forces are sometimes 2 Gs in the turn, moving up on Leroy, getting a draft from him down the backstretch. And this time he's got him. Cale Yarborough has taken the lead, and when he comes by the home stretch, they will have 2 laps to go. Cale Yarborough, who set the qualifying pace in a new close course record of 189.222 miles per hour, has taken the lead from Leroy Yarborough, and here they come with 2 laps to go. Here it is. Can Leroy put enough into that engine to come down the home stretch? It doesn't look like he's going to make it. Cale fights him off. And the checkered flag is out for Cale Yarborough, and there is Leroy Yarborough right behind.
Cale Yarborough finished 1.3 seconds ahead of Leroy Yarborough, giving him his first Daytona 500 victory at the age of 28.
I'll thank Ford Motor Company and Firestone Tires, and most of all, the good Lord. Without him, we couldn't have done it.